underrated and overlooked podcast. Here, joined with Craig Sager. Got a lot to talk about today, man. We're going to be analyzing some tape, one from West Forsyth, out of Forsyth, talking about his tape, Hunter Green, athlete. And then we're also going to be talking with a player out of Las Vegas, Nevada. That'll be a lot of fun. A cornerback doesn't get a lot of notice, but we're going to talk about him as well. And then we're going to get into, obviously, some high school sports in Georgia. We got to talk about the biggest results from this week, the game that we're going to be featuring on TV, Peachtree Sports Network. We'll get into some college football, talk about how our picks went, predictions for this week, obviously, and then the biggest takeaway from NFL and some big results and things like that. But Craig, how are you feeling today?
Feeling good. I always like breaking down the film, and then I'm excited to talk about these results last week.
Yes, sir. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So, biggest results from week 9. I'll go ahead and start. For me, it's Kel. Kel's in the driver's seat right now to win that region. They got 2 more games. Obviously, can't look too far ahead, but I think they did a lot for themselves. I think GSC was the biggest threat just this year. Obviously, Cambridge, I won't say rebuilding, but they weren't as strong as they were last year. Still a great team. Just getting new pieces in there, new weapons. Getting into the fold. New pieces on the offensive line. So I thought GSC was their best bet to kind of beat them, and they gave them a game for the most part. I mean, obviously, Kel pulled away. The pick six kind of ended the game, but I was really impressed with GAC. But Kel, nonetheless, dominant team, and they move on, and they're undefeated now in region play and in the driver's seat.
Yeah, both teams, I think, got late touchdowns. JC on the buzzer, Kel with the incredible pick six to just cap a great night. And you mentioned the Cambridge, and I think that shows just how both these teams that we saw are the upper echelon of that region. GAC beat Cambridge 30-3. Kel used its offense to run away in the second half. And then when you see GAC and Kel, the thing that stands out, the 20 returning starters GAC had, that's an experienced team. They're solid all around, great receivers, big time quarterback, extreme speed out of the backfield. But just Kel, they have so many weapons. And then you look at the stat line after the game, they rushed for, it was like 330 yards as a team. And that's in addition to all the big plays that made in the passing game. So just a really explosive night for that offense that continues to just get better each week. And I still don't even think we've seen their full potential.
No, I don't think they've been in a game where they've hit on all cylinders. We've seen obviously them play some really good games, but I mean just all three in unison and in cohesion. I think we've yet to see that for Kel, and that's pretty scary. I mean, because they can still do it. They got a lot of playmakers. You talked about how you think they have 7-8 athletes on their 5A roster. So I mean they got a bunch of dudes, and that's kind of scary that they haven't played their best ball yet and they're still winning games.
Yeah, and you could see also during the game, you can tell that coaching staff. I mean, it's not just Coach May, he's an incredible coach, but top to bottom, they are really just intentionally trying to just add new wrinkles into the offense. Saw it with some of the misdirection, the lead blocks, the big Bryce run, getting Kamari Nix involved. And then I think what we saw for the first time was just Kyle Vaca being used in different ways. I can't remember seeing a primary outside receiver lining up at tailback, coming out in wheel routes. That misdirection alone, when you have a receiver line up at tailback with that loaded backfield already, knowing that he can go out, run a route, run over the middle. I mean, that really puts pressure on the defense. So I think that coaching staff is really just ahead of the curve, uh, just with their game plan, and it's going to be tough for them to match up every week.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I agree with that. When you can use different weapons in a multitude of ways and you can confuse defenses. And he said he was supposed to run a specific route, the slot fade, but nobody matched up on him. They didn't really take him serious. So then he goes across the middle of the field, easy touchdown, 85 plus yards. So when you're able to have that kind of just play calling, on any level, college, pros, high school, it just really makes a difference. And that's going to be pretty dangerous going ahead. And then, like I said, they sleep on Kyle, you got Peyton Zachary. They sleep on him, you got 3-headed monster out the backfield. So Kale got a lot of ways they can hit you.
Yeah, and I like that they stayed aggressive too. They had some big drives where I mentioned yesterday they missed the field goal to open the second half, but even when the game was getting close and GAC's trying to get back in it, they were aggressive with the play calling. I like that. They had that one reverse flea flicker that got called back for a block in the back on the other side of the field. But even to run that play when you have the lead, it just shows they're confident in their playmakers. They're confident in Bryce to make the right decision, and then the receivers, the playmakers to be in the right spot.
100%. And then, keep going. For me, my next one got to be North Cobb Christian capturing their first region title. I had it featured as my daily dive yesterday. 40-14 victory against Mount Perrin Christian. Teddy Gerard was outstanding, 16 for 24, 292 yards, 4 touchdowns as a freshman. He continues to ball out, leads into their first ever one in program history, 10-2 season last year. Surprisingly, we talked about a little bit off air, Craig. They're not ranked on ours, which is a little surprising, but they're doing their thing, man. So I wanted to give them some love. Obviously, I'm going to have one of the standout players featured in our standout performance in a little bit. But I wanted to give them some love, man. I mean, that's not easy to do. And Coach Jones just doing an outstanding job. Just an outstanding
It
job.
was a really dominant win coming on the heels of the big South Atlanta victory. Mount Perrin's a county rival, and so that was certainly exciting and big time for them to get that home field and first ever region title. That is a big deal. And when you had him on, he was talking about just the uniqueness of that campus, just being in Cobb County, all these big 7A powerhouses around them, and they have that good athletes there, but they kind of get overlooked because they're put in the smaller class. But they have a chance in 2A this year. I think they can make a big run.
For sure. And I'll throw it to you, Craig. What other results stood out to you?
So I was really surprised with a team that I put in the poll to start the season. That's LaGrange. And we mentioned they had a lot of returning pieces. They brought in a new quarterback, I think a running back. They beat Trinity Christian this last week. That was 42-14. And their defense, I mean, Trinity Christian has Phoenix Moss. They've got so many athletes, a great offensive team. They held them, I think it was to 6 rushing yards in that game. That is wild game planning right there, just to make them one-dimensional. That was obviously the game plan. Shut down the run, force them to pass, a dominant victory. And then out of all the regions heading into these next few weeks, you've got Troop, LaGrange, Stars Mill, and Trinity Christian all at 4-1.
It's like that last year. That is such an incredible region.
Yeah, as good as it was last year, because Stars Mill was the team that missed out last year at 7-3.
Right.
And so it's just completely jammed up right now. So the big matchup this week, it looks like LaGrange has Fayette County. They should win that one. You got Trinity Christian and Troop now. So, I mean, that win for LaGrange was so huge, and that just the way they won it. I mean, that is a really solid victory. Coach Napier, and we know his brother's got a big matchup too that we'll talk about later against Georgia.
Yes, for sure. Yep, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, great point out by Craig. Some big games coming up in that region, all 4-1 teams. So somebody's going to put one step closer to getting the region title, and somebody's going to put themselves this upcoming week one step kind of back, and potentially still potentially should win the get into the playoffs, because you got 2 and 3 Whitewater. So long as you don't lose the last 2 games, you should be able to make the postseason. So that is a bonus there.
And Trinity Christian was favored in that matchup. They hadn't had a region loss yet. To go in and beat them 42-14, that's a kind of turnaround game for their season.
100%. And then my next result, we talked about it a little bit at Saturday at the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame. Thomas County Central beat down of Houston County 27-0, sets up a region championship game against Lee County this week. I mean, that is
shutting out that team is crazy.
I mean, we've seen them against Lee, and we've seen, okay, you got Kel Woodburn in the screens, and in the open field, he's dangerous, right? You got what's his name? Ricky Johnson, you could throw the ball to, who's committed to Stanford, right? You got the running game of Ryan Talib, who's kind of underrated, but he gives you those tough yards. He's really good. Antoine Hills just committed to Colorado. I mean, that was surprising. But as you mentioned when we talked on Saturday, Thomas County Central is kind of an underrated team, right? They're ranked, but no one really talks about them in the contender category, right? They kind of get almost overlooked every time. Right? We talk about the Gainesvilles, the Langston Hughes, now Douglas County finally getting the love they deserve, Douglas County, but we always overlook like a Thomas County Central or a team like that. So they got me on the radar. I mean, that's not easy to do. Go beat Houston County and shut them out. That's an explosive offense, and they lead right now. Big time game, as I mentioned, against Lee County.
Yeah, 8-0 right now. 3rd straight shutout, all in region play. Just insane numbers. They've got a 45-point average margin of victory, allowing 5.8 points per game. And what I mentioned yesterday, they aren't necessarily racking up a lot of yards offensively. Their defense is so good, though, that they just control field position. They take advantage of every drive, and they're just a solid team all around. That's head coach Justin Rogers, who came over from Colquitt, and he arrived last year. They've been incredible 2 years in a row, and they're actually one of the rare teams. They went from 4A up to 6A. People thought, oh, this is a big jump for them. No, they're the real deal.
Yeah, they're going to be a team to watch. And then my last one, I'll throw it to Craig. I know you got some more good results. Got to be Lumpkin County's big win, 61-55, 4 overtime victory against White County. Sullins had an incredible game, 268 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. 4 overtime win, 61-55.
Yep, White County is a great team in that region. They've had big wins already over Gilmer, Wesleyan. So that was a big test. They proved that they could win a close game, handling all those overtimes, and they remain undefeated. So definitely a huge win for them in their 3A, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And let's see where that put them in the latest poll. Yeah, they're still at number 6. Okay, so they stayed the same. That makes sense, though. Overtime game, but yeah, great season. That's got to be a historic run for them, 8-0. But I got another one, and this one definitely shook up the poll. Commerce's win over Elbert County.
That is a big win. I'm sorry I laughed. I laughed at Jimmy's comment.
Oh, that's funny. We'll get.
But go ahead, Craig. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think he's referring to Thomas County Central, and I agree with that for the most part. Yes, Thomas County Central might get overlooked because they aren't in the metro area, but I was just pointing out they were a 4A team that went up to 6A. So last year, it's like, okay, that was a really solid run, but I think they've definitely proven, like, you shut down Houston County. We saw Houston County in person, so they aren't getting overlooked any longer. But yeah, Commerce had a big win over Elbert County, 49-21.
Yep.
Elbert County had just beaten Raven County. They were cruising, and just a massive result. Jaden Daniels, 293 yards, 4 touchdowns. They rushed for 535 yards against Elbert County. So huge win, and that is in Class A Division I, which I think is pretty wide open this year. Prince Avenue is obviously great. They did lose a lot of pieces, but if you get that running game going like that, watch out.
100%. So great point out by Craig. Really having a strong season. Commerce is one of their players is actually featured and one of my standout performers as well. So having a good year. Well, Craig, you know, I'm still kind of new. Obviously, it's my second year, but how is the coverage usually for South Georgia teams with SCORE?
Well, I think it's all the Metro Atlanta teams. If you look last year at the state championships, that was actually probably the most represented South Georgia's been in a long time in every single finals. And I don't necessarily think it gets overlooked too much, but there's just not as many teams. I mean, they all pretty much reside in Region 1 in every single classification. So there's just more teams, but we know, looking at the High School Hall of Fame, South Georgia dominated the state until like the 1990s, when you basically had the formation of like the Parkviews. They're like, we've got to do something. We've got to really buy in to be able to compete. We're getting our butts whooped every single year by Valdosta, Lowndes, Camden, all those teams. And it wasn't until I think it was like the 1996 season. That was when Brookwood finally broke through. They lost to Valdosta in the opener, beat them in the finals again. And then we've seen your Lowndes, Parkviews, sorry, not Lowndes, they're obviously South Georgia, but Parkview dominated the 2000s, Grayson. But it has been something that belonged to South Georgia. The Metro teams kind of had a run, but I think in recent seasons, South Georgia's definitely been back. But I mean, teams like Camden, I think Camden's really good, but I think I just don't see them at the level of the Metro Atlantis. I think Colquitt is. I think in 6A, Thomas County Central is, but I wouldn't say we necessarily overlooked them all.
Good point, Craig. Okay. All right, so we'll keep it rolling. We're going to move to Week 9 standout performers. Thanks for the comment as always, Jimmy. We definitely Definitely appreciate it. All right. Week 9 standout performance. I'll go ahead and get it started. For me, got to be Kel, linebacker Elijah Washington. Hope you're watching, man. 8 solo tackles, 5 assists on the tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and a pick six. That's getting it done. As we mentioned earlier at the top of the show, he had the pick six that virtually ended the game for the Kel Longhorns all over the field, making big plays, getting in the backfield, sacking Jack Stanton, giving that offensive line problems, trying his best to, kind of limit the running game. He had a great game. Kel linebacker Elijah Washington.
Yep, and Jimmy, I do agree with that. So South Georgia, I talked about the 7A powerhouses. He's talking about the Columbus area, and that does get overlooked. I feel like you're right about that. But we've got some big matchups coming up. I mean, Carver, we have been talking about them, but I'm excited about Region 1 and 4A with you got Cairo's playing outstanding. You got Bainbridge, some big time matchups coming up in Region 1. But I think, like last year, South Georgia had a really good run in the playoffs. We'll see the same thing this year. All right, my standout's going to be Reese Fountain, Rome's quarterback. He set the school record for career passing yards and touchdowns last week, had 5 touchdowns, 16 of 22 passing, 311 yards, and just another big victory. So Rome, very intriguing team in 6A. They got tons of experience. I like their defense. And the only concern is they played some good competition early. Some of these blowouts, once you get into the playoffs in 6A, you're going to be in some real fights. But as long as they keep rolling like that, they should be healthy and full strength heading into it.
100%. I got to give some love to Commerce running back. You mentioned him at the onslaught, the big time win, 49-21. Jaden Daniels. He's been balling all year for that team, been performing at a high level. Rushed for 293 yards, 4 touchdowns, and has led them to an 8-1 record out there in Class A division, I think, too. So not talked about a lot, but wanted to give some love to Commerce. Running back Jaden Daniels. He's been doing this thing all season long. He's been a big time player for them. Only a junior. I think I don't know where his recruiting stands, but I think it will continue to get bigger and kind of blow up for him. He's been having a strong season for Commerce, and I think he'll continue to do his thing.
Yep. All right. This one's kind of a no-brainer, but KJ Bolden, just another big result. A huge win over Tequila, but he did it all. 4 touchdowns, rushing, receiving, an interception return, and the opening kickoff. I said yesterday, if Buford's going to win state this year, he's going to be the guy that's going to have one of those truly memorable championship performances. But he's having just a tremendous season. He's been their guy every single week.
100%. And then the game probably about a month ago now against Marietta, ended up winning MVP. Did the kind of similar kind of performance against Marietta, 33 victories. So we've seen KJ do it. Always does it on a big stage. Florida State commit. Just fantastic.
Yeah, and just think about early in the season, like against St. Francis that first week. I mean, he was carrying that team offensively and obviously getting it done defensively. So they've had some injuries, but every single week, I love the way he shows up and just balls out.
100%. And then the next one for me got to be GAC running back JL Tiberia. Rushed for 164 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, had a total of 280 all-purpose yards. Despite the loss, like I said, GAC kept it close as they could all the way up to the fourth quarter. He was a big reason why his 2 rushing touchdowns as well that he had in the game. He was just, constant for them, right? Early on, Kel did a good job of kind of, stymieing the run, shutting it down, but he was able to get it going kind of late in the first half and going into the third quarter, and just was able to kind of bust the game open a little bit for them and kind of keep Kel a little bit honest. So I want to give him a shout out. He kind of set the tone early in the game. He had that big kickoff return, got them in. Unfortunately, they weren't able to score. But you talk about setting the tone and giving your team momentum early in the game. He did that with his kickoff return, got them all the way into the red zone. They couldn't convert it into points, but that is how you set the tone for a big-time region game. So shout out to him. GL Tiberia, keep doing your thing.
Yeah, he showed up all 4 quarters in that game, played outstanding. And speaking about the run game, McEachern had a big win over North Paulding, 34-21. We saw North Paulding against Harrison. Harrison wanted to run the ball. They couldn't. That defense is legit. They've been outstanding. But Jayrian Campbell for McEachern, 172 yards and 2 touchdowns. That clinches McEachern the region title. They didn't make the playoffs last year. I think them having a big rushing performance against that North Paulding defense. I think McEachern is one of the hottest teams in the state right now. a huge win and great performance by Campbell.
And the thing, real quick, before I go to my next one, Craig, you've been doing a good job of covering them. They haven't been talked about a lot, especially after their kind of shaky start to start the season. We've seen them though, week one in the Corky Kell kind of really give Brookwood a game, and a game probably they should have won, but we've seen kind of them competing at a high level, but then they had losses. But you said really good losses. They had lost to Douglas County. I think they played. Did they play Stockbridge?
Yep.
Then they played Stockbridge.
I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah, Craig's gonna pull it up. But they got tested early, and they were losing games, and a lot of people counting them out. But then you go and you get the big win against Harrison, right? You beat North Paulding, a team that was playing really good football under Coach Don Starks. They still are, but they beat Harrison a few weeks ago on PC Sports Network. Let's see. That's not Bridge. They played Newton. They lost to Newton 13-7, right? Douglas County obviously had the hotter hand, 31-0. But the interesting one about Hughes, they actually led that game 9-0. They just went on one of those runs that Hughes can always do with Coach Boone Williams and kind of broke away. So just wanted to give McEachern some love, man. I mean, tough schedule, but they've rattled off 5 consecutive victories, clinched the region title, and they will be at home and will be the number 1 seed for the first 2 rounds. So you can't get much better than that.
Yeah, year 1 for Kareem Reed. To go back from an 0-4 start, 5 straight wins, region championship, that's got to feel really good for that team. They're going to close it out after a bye this week against Hillgrove, and then they'll be off and running in the playoffs. But their rushing attack's been next level, and then defensively really stout the last few weeks, and that's a big win over North Paulding, who's now tied with Marietta and Harrison. So very interesting in that region, but McEachern gets the top seed.
Yes, sir. And then the next standout for me got to be New Hempstead quarterback Rashawn Truell. That's out of Savannah. Want to get some love out there as well. 14 for 16, 272 yards passing, 6 touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown. That's getting it done. They are 4-4. They're trying to contend and compete and get a playoff spot. That's a big time performance. Only 2 incompletions, 6 touchdowns. That's getting it done. Want to give them a shout out. Rashawn Truell of New Hempstead. That's how you do it. So that is one of my standout performances as well.
And then I got, Isaiah Canyon from Warner Robins, another big win. Similar situation with some of these other teams that have gotten real hot as of late. Warner Robins, they do it all the time. They turn it on in the region and have deep runs in the playoffs. But Judd Anderson's looking good at quarterback, and then that's a big time. 8 catches, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns.
It's a big time performance. And then obviously I'm going to give some more love to North Cobb Christian. Again, talked about them winning the region championship first time in program history. But wide receiver Will Mosley was also a big part of that in addition to Teddy Girard. But look at this stat line, 266 all-purpose yards. He had 169 yards receiving, 75 yards from the punt return, 22 yards rushing, and 3 touchdowns. That's getting it done. He gets my shout-out, one of my standout performers from the week, Will Mosley of North Cobb Christian. Got them going offensively and got them going in the special teams as well. And that's a big component, especially come playoff time. That field position, getting it deep into the opponent's territory. Will Mosley's look like he's doing good with that. He's one of my standout performers.
Yep, I got one more, and then we'll talk about Cam in a second. But Parkview's Jaden Daniels, wanted to give him some love. Their quarterback had a great game against Newton. Scored all 4 of the touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 through the air, 18 of 22 passing, 275 yards. I feel like that's the confidence booster he needed, a big-time win over Newton, and they got a chance in the region now. And so I thought that was just a great sign from him, a really efficient night against a good Newton team.
And then my last ones, obviously I'm not going to say stats for this one, but I wanted to give a shout-out to quarterback KJ Smith. He just picked up 2 recent offers. Very happy for him. Hopefully it continues to pick up for him. Got to see him early on against Milton, and sometimes the throws weren't there, but he was just making plays with his feet and his legs, and then extending the plays and making big plays down the field. So I want to give him a shout out for picking up 2 offers. But my standout performer from this week from Roswell doesn't get a lot of love, doesn't get talked about a lot, but Ryder Duffy, their linebacker, 7 solo tackles in this game. Gosh, where did it go? Okay, hold on, guys.
I think I have it right here.
Okay.
Yeah, 7. He had 3 tackles for loss, a sack, intercepted a pass, and 2 forced fumbles. That's a big time impact.
Big time impact. Again, interception, 2 forced fumbles, 7 solo tackles, 2 sacks. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I wrote it down, but I couldn't seem to find it for whatever reason. But yes, Ryder Duffy wanted to give you some love, man. Got to see you up close and personal. You just fly all over the field for the Roswell Hornets. You do a really, really good job. So I wanted to give you some love, man. Keep doing your thing. I think Roswell's flying pretty high right now. I think they're right at the top of the region.
I bumped him up a couple spots.
Yep. So
they've been playing well. I got one more actually. Luke Nickel.
There we go.
And this one's interesting. He did win the overall player of the week. School record, 457 yards, 5 touchdowns. But here's why I like his performance. We've seen West Forsyth play. They just shut down Lambert. What's the strength of that team? It is their linebackers. So they probably knew going into it, this is going to be tough to run. We're going to have to attack them with the pass. They relied on Luke, and just a historic performance, big time. And Milton in region play is a different animal.
Hey, they are 31 straight.
Yeah, that's crazy. So big time performance by Luke Nickel.
As always, Coach Reeves got that team playing high. Another one of those teams just, flying under the radar. Nobody's talking about them. Except for that, that loss to North Cobb. They've kind of, flown under the radar since then. Have rattled off 3 consecutive victories in the region. They got Denmark this weekend, a home game, and they got one more to end. That could be a pretty interesting game next week. We seen last year, this was the region championship between them and Lambert. That will be a home game this year. I don't think we've been to Milton so far. So that will be interesting. But shout out Luke Nickel, man. Miami commit. Got to see him up close and personal, and I was really impressed with just the steps he took forward. From kind of seeing him preseason and then seeing him in the season. And as I told you, Craig, we've talked about this numerous of times off the air. I said that, obviously a lot of people don't talk about Milton and 7A region standings, but I talked about just their offense getting on track, right? And I said up until that point, they played some teams tough. They got a couple losses on there, but it hadn't clicked up until that point. But it finally had clicked in that Roswell game, and it got going and had produced their second or their highest scoring output in that game. So they really got rolling, and now you're starting to see the culmination. And it's almost like with football, obviously you want to win games, but you don't want to play your best football early on. And I know that's probably doesn't sound like the best thing to say, but you really want to get going later in the season, right? The big region games, if you're in college, the late conference games, going into the college football playoff, and NFL, that December, January window when you're about to hit the postseason, you're hitting those last critical games. Like, that's when you want to be playing your best football. And it seems like Milton, they finally got that offense going. We've seen what the defense can do against most teams, especially that defensive line that can kind of, shut teams down. And then that really elite secondary they got. So, I mean, they're playing some good football, and Luke Nickel continues the ball.
Yeah, I'm sure just the highlights from that game probably look like a full season. C.J. Wiley, also school record, 254 receiving yards in that game. They got a lot of weapons, but I just, going into that, they're like, all right, running the ball is going to be tough. We got to attack them. So I think that's a big concern, though, with Milton. Once they get that run game going as well, that's the Milton team I want to see in the playoffs.
100%. And the interesting thing about C.J. Wiley, I think he was clocked at a 19 miles per hour speed this past week. And the only reason I say that, he's a big target, a 6'4", 200 plus pounds, to be running 19 miles per hour. He has the speed as well. He's not just a big body, 50-50 goal ball kind of receiver. He can also take it across the middle and make big plays too. So that's what we got there. We're going to leave it there. That's all our standout performers. Congrats to everybody that made the list. Keep doing your thing. Make sure you guys send it. All our stuff is linked below, our Twitters and everything, if you want to be featured on the standout performers from Score Atlanta. All right, let's keep it rolling. We're going to break down some tape. We're going to start with linebacker, or actually tight end, defensive end, Hunter Green, athlete, as he's listed. Head coach Barker, or one of the coaches, Barker, wanted us to look at the tape. So we're going to roll it about 1:28. Going to look at his, and then we're going to roll one more after that. All right, let's see. All right, Hunter Green, here we go. All right, so bad snap there. Look, good pursuit. Looks like a big pass breakup right there. I think they're in the white. Woo! Flying out like a missile. Let's look at that again. I think he is 35, so you guys can see. So watch him just kind of release off the point. I mean, using his speed. Big time play right there. No one blocks him. That's a bad mistake. Right, here's again. Playing the right end. Just great job slowing that down right there. Good awareness. Right, here's a tight end spot, playing both sides. Nice little route run right there. carrying his defender. Definitely a nice move. Here he is again. Ooh. I kind of like that.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. Let's look at that again. All right, so he's showing, obviously, I see why he's an athlete, showing that he can rush the passer on the right end, showing his versatility, being able to have good play recognition, good play awareness. But right here, let's look at this play again. So left, right there. Okay, he sees his quarterback right there. He's in trouble. This is great. This is well covered right here. But look at him. Okay, boom, I'm covered. Look at this defender come down, guys, right here. This defender now is covering Hunter Green. Look at him make a position. Oh, okay, my quarterback needs me. Let me move back inside. Boom, let me come back to the ball. I mean, that's his textbook
just
right there.
adjust without hesitation.
Yes. Here he is again on the right end. Great move. Good job using his hands. That's holding right there. They can break through. Continue to pursue. Turn it into a bad throw. That's fantastic. Same thing right here. Good job blocking that up. All right, here he is again. Good pursuit right here. Looking to go right here. Woo, that's a touchdown. Let's look at that one more time. Big time play right here. Okay, so this is a touchdown. Remember, they did not score in this game. So he saved some points here. So, my bad. Let me go back so they can see where he was at. Okay, so boom. He's over here somewhere. This is well blocked. He's done. These three are right here going to block. He's going to get him. Going to see it. Boom. Missed the tackle right here. 2 is going to whiff. Boom. That's big time. And why that's big time, as we said, guys, they forced them to 0 points. They did not score. So to be able to do that, that was big. And you know what I'm saying, he prevented a score right there. So I'll say my standouts and authority. You clear before we go to the next tape. I like his play recognition. Definitely he's an athlete. I see why the coach wanted to just look at his film. That was just from the Lambert game. Hopefully he'll have a full huddle film we can look at another time. But I like his ability on offense. He's able to kind of see where the field is. He can get off really good. He's really good in the passing game. If something's not there, he already has that kind of Travis Kelce kind of like, or just tight ends to be able to get in the view of your quarterback and make it an easy throw for him. I love that about his game defensively. Good hands as far as coming off the rush, able to get the left tackle hands off of him quick and be able to kind of disrupt and things like that. Love his play recognition, and he doesn't quit on the play. You seen that last play, him coming all the way from the back. He could have gave up and just jogged. He ran all the way over and stopped that and prevented points, which was huge in that game because it's 10-0 win for them. So Hunter Green, very impressive today. What was your standouts, Chris?
Defensively and offensively, you saw the same sort of ability to just adjust on the fly. He can rush the pass, and then if it's a screen over his head, he's turned around. He's there to make the play. And then that's one of the things we talked about just on the sideline, and think against Harrison when Braylon Ford's rolling out, improvising. It's like the receivers got to keep running, keep trying to get open. And then that's what he does naturally in a really tough situation. That wasn't like an easy one. The route was still kind of in its progression, but just being on the same page as the quarterback and then making some difficult catches. So that guy's a baller, you can tell.
Yes. So really enjoy using your tape, analyzing your tape. Only a junior, so still got a big season. West Forsyth is right there. Your guys will definitely make postseason this year. We've seen you guys playing really good ball. So shout out to you, Hunter Green. Keep doing your thing, man. We see you. All right, last one we're going to look at. This is from Las Vegas. All right, Adrian Peterson from Nevada. Set to this tape. No fly zone. He's a senior cornerback. Plays at Arborview High School. Ooh, nice job adjusting right there. Okay, he is right here. Great closing speed, good wrap-up tackle. All right, still a deep ball right here. Great job plastering the receiver. Nice job right there.
Wow, go back on that one.
For
Did
sure.
he tip that to his teammate?
I think he did. Some good awareness. Let's go back.
Wow.
Here he is here. Boom. Yup, he sure did because he went up. That was nice. All right, here's again. Special teams. Nice block. That's big, preventing points. I think you see that play again. Him just tipping it up. Big time right here. Okay, here he's playing a little bit of press coverage. This looks like potentially cover 2, but I think niggas going to be a disguise into a cover 3. You're going to see probably this safety go up top, him kind of come down. Let's see if I'm right. Good job right there, plastering the receiver. No fly zone. Look like he's pretty elite in press coverage. Good job bumping his man. Not giving him any space. Right here, he's going to play a little bit of off coverage, about 5 yards off the line. He's great closing speed.
Yeah, no chance on that one.
None. I mean, that's how you close in space. All right, he's getting in here on the goal line. Again, playing that press coverage. Good job bumping off the line. Good PBU right there. Let's see. Okay, here he is right here. Woo. That's a big hit right there. Let's look at that again. You don't see corners making them kind of hits. So he's all the way on that side. You're going to see him kind of come up in the fold right here. Big time hit. I don't think if he makes it, it's a bigger run. Big time hit right there. Right, here's again playing a little bit of off coverage. He's coming down. Defender makes a move. That's just textbook right there. I'm looking at him play deep. Quarterback's going to try him. Let's see what he does. Good job just forcing the receiver out. So pretty good tape. Adrian really enjoyed obviously looking at that. Let me go back to our homepage. All right, yeah, so really impressive tape. I think he's really elite in the press man coverage. He does a good job of I think taking away what the receiver wants to do. Obviously showing the ability to be able to be in the open field and make those big tackles for the defense. And it looked like the receiver doesn't really have a lot of space when he's covering them. So I think he's elite at press coverage, great open field tackler, could take away the deep ball. Shows some pretty impressive tape.
Yep. Thing that I like most is the acceleration. Even on some of those plays, the receiver might beat him inside. He's trailing. He can get out in front and have those pass breakups. That's the elite part of his game for sure. That just acceleration, closing speed, where that's going to help him playing bump coverage up front, being able to just stay on their hips, and then once that ball's in the air, he can close.
And I think real quick, I'm gonna bring up an NFL point. I think you're seeing it more and more often. You're trying to get that speedy DB coming into the league now. Obviously, the Bengals recently did it, getting DJ Taylor, who runs a DJ Turner, who runs a 4.2. When you play athletes like obviously like a Jalen Waddle or a Tyreek Hill that can take the top off the defense, you want a guy that can kind of match speed for speed, even if they're backpedaling. So that's important, man. I mean, obviously that stands out for his tape, as Craig mentioned, the closing speed. So if you have that on your tape, you show coaches, hey, I can close down that speed. Even if I got beat, you're not going to be able to win every play. Like, that's just corner. It's tough. It's a tough position. One of the tougher positions to play besides quarterback, I think. So if you got that closing speed and you could still get beat and still come down and make the big PBU, I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and he obviously has a great vertical also. We saw it on that pass breakup that turned into an interception. That was a phenomenal play right there.
100%. We're going to leave it there. We're going to transition to college football. Thanks, guys. As always, keep sending that tape over. Our Twitters and stuff is linked below if you want us to analyze your film every single Tuesday. All right, let's roll. Georgia-Florida rivalry matchup. That is the game of the week that you're coming off a bye week. What's your thoughts, Craig? I'll let you start this one, and I'll give my thoughts.
It's the first game without Brock. That's the big storyline for me. So I think it's obviously going to impact it in a variety of ways. One, you haven't really seen what Georgia's strategy is going to be without him. So that is a potential benefit. They obviously have a lot of weapons. I talked last week about the other tight end prospects that obviously aren't all American on his level, but they've got some talent in kind of the backup roles, and we've seen them get action. So what's the offense going to look like? Who's going to come up big in the big moments? Who's going to be Carson Beck's primary go-to guy if it gets in a tough situation? I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be closer, but the Brock factor, that's the main thing I'm looking at.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm going to start with Florida. I think it's a really interesting QB matchup, right? Graham Mertz, who came from Wisconsin, I believe, versus Carson Beck. As Craig mentioned, the valuable point, how will the weapons look, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. But for me, I like how Mertz has kind of looked this season. He's progressed every game. He didn't look too hot against Utah early on in the season, but he's gotten better and better. Doesn't turn over the football a lot. Only 2 interceptions this season, 12 touchdowns, I think over 1,000+ yards passing. But what I really like about Florida is their backfield, right? Their running game. Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne got over close to 900 yards combined rushing. So that's the key for me. If I'm Florida and I'm going into this game, I want to play ball control. I want to lean on my running game, and I want to be able to limit the possessions of Georgia. That is what I want to do coming into this game. And you can do that with a great running game in Trevor Etienne and obviously Montrell Johnson. We've seen them do it against Tennessee, right? Kind of limit their possessions, control the clock with those two. They had no answers for their running game. If you can come in here, we've seen, I'm not going to say that they can't stop the run, but we've seen Georgia's defense be susceptible to the run a little bit, right? The run defense wasn't great against Auburn. They rushed for over 108 yards. And that's the worst game they've had all season. But still, we've seen them be a little bit susceptible. So if I'm going into this game and I'm Florida, I'm thinking about that rushing attack, getting them to involve early, get them rolling, get them both into a rhythm. And then just Graham Mertz, he got to just continue to do what he's doing, right? Make the big throws, hit his receivers, and just play within the offense. Don't try to do too much. Lean on the running game and hit those receivers. And then for Georgia, you got to lean on Dejon Edwards a little bit, right? You got Kendall Milton and him, but Dejon Edwards, 460 yards rushing this year, 6 touchdowns. Let that set up your play action. And as you mentioned, the other ones, they got to step up, right? You got to have, as you mentioned, the Oscar Dubs of the world. We've seen what he did at West Forsyth. He got to come in and have, he doesn't need, and that's the thing with Georgia that I like. Everyone talks about Brock Bowers and how big of a component he is of the offense. He is. But if you go look at the distribution of receiving yards and just the distribution of the throws and everything, obviously Brex leaned on Bowers. But if you look at Rosemary Saint, right, he has, I think, over 300 yards. If you go look at Ra Thomas, he has close to 250, 300 yards. So if you look at the distribution, it's getting distributed to all of the receivers. So they play big against in that Kentucky game. We've seen the receivers step up real big. That's all they need. As Kirby Smart said, they don't need no one to have over 100 plus 150-yard game. They don't need that. They just need their receivers to do their job, get open, make big plays, make plays with the ball in their hands. They don't need a big-time performance. If he goes and 4 or 5 receivers has over 50 yards or whatever, Georgia will be fine. That's all they need to do. Play their role, step up big, lean on the rushing attack with Dejon Edwards and obviously Kendall Milton. I think Georgia will be fine.
Yeah. Georgia, in my opinion, they'll be able to run the ball. Florida's defense, I don't think it's top 10 in the nation. I think it's a solid defense. They obviously are going to make it tough for Georgia to try to give up or try to limit the big plays and stuff. But I do expect Dejon to be able to run the ball very efficiently. So how aggressive is Florida going to come out in this game? Are they going to view it as, okay, Georgia's proven they're a great second half team, we got to try to do something in the first half, come out aggressive? Or are they, as you said, going to try to establish the run, play keep away? That's going to be interesting to see. But I really do think it comes down to how Florida's going to look in this first half. 100%. They're going to just wear them down in the second half.
Such a great point. And if you're Florida, like you said, you got to think about striking early. You got to think about limiting those possessions, and you got to think about trying to get an early lead, right? Make Georgia play from behind. Put the pressure on Georgia to come back in this game. If you could do that early on, you got to like your chances.
Yeah, that might be the formula. Come out aggressive and then try to wear it out with your run game, play keep away, play with the clock. But, yeah, I do think it's going to be a good one. Both teams are coming off byes.
Yep.
So they've got plenty of time to prepare.
Yeah, so it'll be a good one. We'll obviously talk about it next week, me and Craig. That's where we got an eye on this Saturday. All right, let's go to another Georgia team, Georgia Tech. Another head-scratching loss to Boston College. I'll start this one. I think just a rough game for Haynes King, right? 3 interceptions, had a pick 6. I just think they need more production from their running backs. Only 50 yards rushing from the running back. King had 150 yards rushing in this game. So they got to step it up. Now, what I do like about King is he has a great dual threat ability, right? And you see it on that big touchdown run he had in the game. So he can obviously get and run, and break tackles and things like that. And you can use him in the running game too. But they just need, I know this has been a running back by committee all season. They need more production out of that position, in my opinion. And in the key in the game, this is crazy, Craig. Great third quarter from Georgia Tech. They won the quarter 13-0. They led 23-17 going into the fourth, right? But the issue is Tech gave up over 563 total yards of offense, 308 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns between the 2 running backs. That's just not going to cut it. We've mentioned kind of the tackling issues they had all season. Obviously, they got to work out the kinks, but fourth quarter, Boston College outscored them 21-0. So that got to be better, in my opinion. And in the key in the game, the key play, 4th and 1, they lead 24-23. If Georgia Tech gets the ball, to get the ball on their opponent's territory, but 4th and 1, big time run from Thomas Calistanos, who scores the touchdown, 8:46 point in the game. That pretty much broke it open. It was 31-23. Of course, Tech got back the ball, but they didn't really do anything with it. But that was the key play. If Georgia Tech gets that stop, 4th and 1, got like their chances, get the momentum, get the ball back to King in that offense, and let them do their thing. But that's been the key, man. They've just looked better. I don't know what it is with Georgia Tech. They've looked better on the road than at home for whatever reason that is. But big time, loss. But they got a big one this week. They got to play a game we're going to obviously feature in our predictions. They got UNT, who's coming off that loss to Virginia. So,
and then Thomas Castellanos, we got to see him play at Ware County. That guy's the real deal. So you talk about Haynes King, his dual threat ability. Look at Thomas. He is exceptional at that. So that kind of negated anything Haynes was doing on the ground, just him adding that factor.
Yep.
And then, the defense for Tech, it's just when you have one athlete at quarterback that's hurting you, then you add the backfield, they're all getting it done. That's just wasn't the right effort defensively for them. But
no,
they got to clean it up. And the thing about North Carolina, they just haven't been able to put away any team this year. They've looked kind of stagnant. They're solid on both sides of the ball, but I don't think they have that same explosive ability that Thomas brought to the table.
100%. So we will see. That game is going to be prime time on the ACC Network on ESPN, 8 o'clock kick. I think Georgia Tech is at home. We'll be hosting North Carolina. So let's go ahead and see how we fared on picks last week, Craig. How did you do?
We had, what was the total, 10?
14.
14.
Yes, sir.
Oh, dang. All right, hold up. I missed the UNC, Tennessee, and the USC.
Me too. How'd you do in the Cincinnati game?
One sec, guys. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Cincinnati. Let's see. I picked Cincinnati, so I lost that one.
Lost that one. Okay. And then did you do how'd you do with Kansas State? That was another one we did.
I picked Kansas State.
Okay. So you got that one right too. And then the Oregon Washington State.
I picked Oregon.
Okay, cool. I think that was most of them. I think you picked Michigan, right?
I picked Michigan, picked Ohio State, picked FSU, picked Oklahoma, picked Texas. But I missed the USC, I missed the Tennessee over Alabama, my bad, guys, and UNC.
Okay, so what's that, like 9-4?
Yeah.
Okay, pretty good. I went 8-6.
I got the Penn State one right, I believe.
Yeah,
I
think
you picked Penn State.
Yeah, and they played them tough. I mean, their defense was good. They just couldn't get anything going offensively. So, I mean, obviously that's a big win for Ohio State. But yeah, my missed picks were Penn State, Georgia Tech. I had them winning. Michigan State, USC, Clemson, and then Cincinnati. So I went 8-6 last week. Still over 500. So you'll take that. 9-5 for Craig. All right, I think Craig got me again. So Craig is 3-1 in picks right now. We'll see if I can top him up this week. But yeah, let's go ahead and move to week 8 predictions.
The standout game for me, USC. I mean, that's a tough one. That's a tough loss. I thought for sure they've got to come back. And then the reason I'm not upset that I didn't change my mind, I thought with Jalen Glover, who's had a pretty good impact in that Utah backfield, I was like, okay, USC's defense has been playing well. He'll have a good game. I should change my mind. He only had one carry in the game, though, so it wasn't him that factored into it. But I'm honestly surprised. USC looked like they could be a college football playoff team a couple weeks ago, a couple short weeks, and now they are reeling.
Yes, and then that brings up the next big topic before getting into our predictions. Just what do you think of the kind of notion that Caleb Williams should sit the rest of the year?
That'd be pretty crazy because things could spiral pretty quickly. Because I don't see them as a team that – I mean, you have that big goal set at the beginning of the year, and then they could literally fold like a table. As much talent as they have, if someone's not stepping up as a leader, it could be bad. And then I don't think it's going to impact it too much, but you look at the conference situation and then some of these big time prospects, this is a hot market. Some of these guys might start flipping or at least taking other visits and getting potential deals. So they've got to find a way to right this ship.
I agree. I don't think he should sit either. I don't think that's fair to his teammates that has been invested in, regardless if you don't make a college football playoff. I mean, if you're talking about a bowl game, I mean, hey, I get it. But the rest of the season, come on, man. You still got, 4 or 5 games left?
Let's see.
Buy all the way in. I don't agree with that decision, regardless of, he has his career. Regardless, he's going to be a
They
top
got
pick.
some tough games though.
What they got?
They got
They should be Cal.
and then they got Washington, Oregon, and UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Those are big games, man. You cannot sit your quarterback, regardless if you're out of the fold. Those are big games, and potentially, if you win, I mean, even though they got the 2 losses, you still have a potential chance. If you win those games, you still can contend and compete for a Pac-12 championship, regardless. So those are still big games. It's still there for you, right in the fold. Washington hasn't lost yet. They looked a little shaky this past week against Arizona State. So it's all there. The notion that was thrown out this week that he should sit, no. He should play. They're going to need him. They got big-time games, as Craig mentioned, 3 ranked opponents coming up after that California game. So, no, I think he should play. That wouldn't be fair to his teammates. And obviously, he probably won't win the Heisman this year, but that's okay. That's not what's important.
Got one.
Yeah, already got one, So we will see. But, no, I don't think he should play it. But let's go ahead and move on to our Week 8 predictions, Craig. I'll start it off. Obviously, I do the first ones, and then you get your games. So I'm gonna go Florida. What is it? This must be Florida State. Hold on, guys. I think I messed this up. I don't know what I did with my list this week.
Florida State, Wake Forest.
Okay, that's what it was. I put Florida. I don't know what I had going on. Okay, Florida State, Wake Forest. I'm gonna go Florida State. Playing some good football. First 7-0 start in a long, long, long time. I got them winning. Who you got on that one, Craig?
I got Florida State.
All right, 1-1 on that one. We agree. Oklahoma versus Kansas. I'm going upset alert. I think Oklahoma's obviously coming off that big momentum, beating Texas, I think, bye week. But I think Kansas is going to give them a good fight. I think Kansas is going to have a big game. I got them coming on top in an upset, beating Oklahoma, handing them their first loss of the season.
I got Kansas also.
All right. Next one, Georgia, Florida. We just previewed the matchup. I think it's this is the last year. It might be at a neutral site. So big time game. Georgia, Florida. I'm gonna roll with Georgia. I think they remain undefeated. I think a game to watch for Georgia in the coming weeks is against Tennessee. But I don't think Florida has enough in this one. But I do think they did those ways. If they can, play ball control, limit possessions, get a couple takeaways, they should like their chances. But I'm gonna roll with Georgia.
I got Georgia as well.
All right, 3-3 there. Okay, big time game right here. Oregon versus Utah, both ranked opponents. Oregon obviously lost to Washington, but again, big time Pac-12 game between these two teams. So, who you got?
Oh man, I'll go with Utah.
I'm gonna go Oregon. I think that's the one we disagree on. All right, so I got Oregon, Craig got Utah. Big time game right here, as I mentioned to Craig off air, could potentially be a candidate for college game day if both teams win. James Madison obviously got a big game with ESPNU this weekend. Georgia State's going to play Georgia Southern. Big time rivalry game between those two. I'm going to roll with Georgia State on the road. Big time victory. They moved to 7-1 on the season.
I got Georgia Southern.
All right, Craig has Georgia Southern. All right, next pick, Pittsburgh versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame had that big time victory. Who did they beat recently? That nobody had them beaten. I know they're like 6-2.
Beat USC.
That's what it was. Beat USC. So Pittsburgh, as you've seen, they've had some pretty big games they've won, but I think Notre Dame should be able to win at home. So I'm gonna go with
I got Notre Dame also.
I'm gonna go with the Irish. All right, we agree there.
And what Jimmy's saying, it's in Jacksonville. Yeah, I know they've talked about moving it, but I think people will go crazy if they move that game. That's like
That's what I've heard. That's the only reason why I mentioned
that. It's like a religious voyage to go down there for some people.
Yeah, so I've heard they've been in talks of moving it. That's the reason why I brought that up. Not this year, obviously, but I heard they've been in talks of moving that game. And especially next year, there is no divisions anymore, so it's just SEC ball. So.
Yeah, they've talked about it. So they would make it just a home game.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, people might not be happy about that.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right, next one, big one, Duke, Louisville. I think Riley Leonard is a little hurt, a little banged up for Duke. So I'm gonna go Louisville.
I'm going Duke.
All right, Craig has Duke. Jimmy said he's gonna be there at the game, so
Nice.
nice. That should be fun. All right, USC versus California. USC should be able to get back on track. The other superior team when it comes to California, they should win that game.
Yep, I got the Trojans.
Yep. All right, next one, North Carolina, Georgia Tech. Such a tough one because it's like right when you want to count out Georgia Tech to come up with the big victory. North Carolina's reeling off of that loss to Virginia. I'm gonna go Tech.
I got Tech.
Yep. I'm gonna roll with Tech on that one. They should be come on top. All right, last one for me, and then I give it to you, Craig, for some picks. Ohio State versus Wisconsin on NBC. It's one of them trap games. Ohio State's look good, but I mean Wisconsin could give it to them.
I got Ohio State.
I'm more with the Buckeyes too. They should be able to win that. All right, I'm gonna throw it to you now, Craig.
All right. Let's see. The first one I want. Had it a second ago. Yeah, Virginia, Miami.
Miami should win that. Obviously, it was a boneheaded call at the end, putting your quarterback Clay Klubnik on the edge, but Miami nonetheless won. I'm gonna roll with the Hurricanes. They should be able to win that game.
Got Miami also. All right, Tennessee and Kentucky.
What's Tennessee's record?
Both are 5-2. It's at Kentucky.
Kentucky should win that. I'm gonna roll with the Wildcats. They should win.
I got Kentucky also.
But,
all right, Colorado, UCLA.
Ooh, that's a big one. They struggled, man. They struggled against Stanford. They should have won that game. Not ranked anymore. For some reason, I still believe in Colorado. I'm gonna go Colorado, man.
I got Colorado too. And all right, Mary Fox, thank you for your comments. I did know that. Najee can vouch for me right here. I was reading it and it says Jaden Daniels, and so it didn't register.
It did
My bad.
Yeah, it did on the newsletter. So Craig kind of read it direct from that. So that's what it says in the newsletter. But we apologize, Miss Fox.
Yeah,
Thank
not
you for tuning
Jaden
in.
Daniels.
Jaden
Jenkins. He
Yes,
had
ma'am.
a great game. Shout out to him.
Yep.
A big win over Newton.
Yep. We apologize for that. But Craig, who you got in that one?
I got Colorado.
All right, cool.
All
Some
right.
other big ones in there too.
Let's see. Which other one was on your radar?
Let me see. Talking about that one's a good one. We keep scrolling. We did that one.
We did this one?
No, I didn't do
let's
that
do
one.
Mississippi State and Auburn.
Auburn's struggling, but they're at home. I mean, Auburn should win that. I'm gonna roll with the Tigers. They should be on top.
All right, and then one more. I got Auburn as well. Let's go. Find one BYU against Texas.
Now, the issue is with this Texas game, the quarterback got hurt. He's an AC joint sprain, so he's going to be out a couple weeks. So that's going to set up first-team reps. I think they got a quarterback supposed to step in. Archie Manning's supposed to get some reps as well. But Texas should be able to come out on top despite the QB thing. Just lean on the rushing game. Allow it to kind of fuel you. Lean on the defense a little bit. I got Texas winning.
I'm going big upset. I got BYU.
All right.
That's it.
All right, so that concludes our college football segment. We're about to wrap up the show with the last segment, NFL, talk some professional football. But those are our picks. Mark them down, see how we did. Hopefully I can get Craig this week. He got me 3 weeks in a row. So I got him first week. He got 3 straight. So let's see if I can beat him this week. We disagreed on 4 picks. So Oregon, Utah, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, I think Duke, Louisville, and then BYU, Texas. So let's see who comes out on top. All right, let's start it. What's wrong with the Chargers? 2 and
Man,
4.
well, one, the Chiefs have their number, so let's not just focus on that game. But I think within it, they're giving up too many sacks. Um, 5 sacks in that game. So anytime they go up against an above average defense, they just seem to collapse in the big moment. They aren't closing out games. And then, I mean, that's a pretty solid team recently. That's a playoff caliber team. They seem to be definitely, I wouldn't say spiraling, but they are sputtering right now. They are not looking too hot.
I'm gonna say coaching, and I say coaching because I think they have the talent, right? Obviously, they're gonna have to make some changes. They're not gonna be able to keep all the core players together. It's unfortunate Mike Williams went down with an ACL injury. We still got Keenan Allen, still got Joshua Palmer stepping up, Gerald Everett, Austin Eckler's not having as good of a season as you would thought, but he's probably going to be going after this year. But I think the combination of Herbert playing with an injury, him missing on some throws, I think has been big too. Towards the end of the game against Dallas, he missed big on the throw to Keenan Allen. That was potential touchdown. I just think him missing on throws in key spots has been big for them. But they have so much talent. I brought it up yesterday. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, like their defense, the fact that Brandon Stanley came over as defensive coordinator, their defense should be a lot better than what it is. Now, they did better in the second half against the Chiefs, but Mahomes threw for 400 yards, right? Kelsey looked like had receiver numbers. You know what I'm saying? So I just think they're not getting the most out of what they should from their talent. I think it needs to be a lot better. So that's my biggest standout. I think they got to move on. Unfortunately, Brandon Staley's good, but I mean, it's hard to come back from a 27-0 game you dominated and then lose that and come back the next season. Obviously, you're not going to say that's an issue, but that plays a lot. It plays a toll. So they're gonna have some tough decisions to make, unfortunately, for the Chargers. But I mean, I think they have the quarterback. I still think he's top 10. I just think he needs a better coach in there for him to really just not put so much on him. And obviously, he got to just hit his throws. He's been missing on some of them, but they're just underperforming. To have that much talent, they should be better than what they are.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their record right now. So 2-point loss to the Dolphins, overtime to Tennessee, rough start. They bounce back. 2 straight wins, tight loss to Dallas, and then the Chiefs just do what they always do to you. So it's been disappointing, but it's like in that game, gave up way too much defensively, looked lost out there. Gave up some big plays in special teams, and then offensively, the miscues. They should win the next few outings, get back to 500 potentially, but I just don't see them as just a big time contender. There's something missing where they just aren't in control of any of these games, and they definitely haven't had the clutch factor to be able to pull out tight games.
100%. And then, as we mentioned, the Chiefs keep rolling. Big win. I think a great second half performance from the defense, shut them out. 2 turnovers. I think that's the good thing about the Chiefs. You guys got a lot of young talent on the defensive side of the ball, but they're stepping up big. I think you guys are in talks to try to get back Frank Clark from I know he's released from Denver, trying to get him back on the defensive line. But I've just been impressed with some of you guys as young players. You know what your offense can do, and I think that's a good sign to see Mahomes throw up those numbers. And as we see it progress, obviously people are going to double Kelsey more and more. But I've liked the decision of Rashee Rice. I think that's going to be a big factor. Obviously, unfortunate. Justin Ross, dealing with his situation and potentially a felony charge. We'll see what happens with that. But I think the good thing is you still got Pacheco running the football for you, and you got the decision of Rashee Rice, who could be a potential weapon for you guys come playoff time and come deeper in the season.
Yeah, and that was a game where everyone got involved. Just looked outstanding. But back to the Chiefs defense, I just think they have this heightened situational awareness. When it's a big third down, they're all just recognizing the opportunity. They're all on the same page. Guys are stepping up. Other defenses, it looks like they're on their heels. They're giving up big plays all season long. This Chiefs defense just been dialed in. It's been very impressive, fun to watch, and reliable. It's like if it's third down, they're bringing the heat. They're putting pressure on the quarterback, coming up with big sacks, and just making everything difficult. And certainly one of the better Chiefs defenses I've seen. They are not giving up a lot of points at all.
And another key stat to wrap up this part of the segment: Mahomes is 29-3 versus the AFC West. That's getting it done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's got to be. I'm trying to think. I mean, Brady and
Yeah, that is in the
And-
Brady category because he
Manning.
dominated that division for
Yeah.
years in the AFC East. So
that's
I mean,
wild.
yeah.
And that's with like that perfect season in that mix. That is,
it's
man.
pretty crazy. Yep. But I will leave that there. We're gonna move to the next topic. Are the Dolphins frauds or contenders? Had to bring it up. I know it's a little clickbaity, but 5-2, big time L to the Eagles. What's your thoughts on that? I'll let you start that, Craig.
I think what the Dolphins got exposed on in that matchup is they have all the talent in the world. They lack the physicality. I think the Eagles are probably the biggest, most physical team in the league, and they came out. They knew they wanted to make them one-dimensional. They did. They shut down the run, and then just had a better game plan. So I just think like you're playing the Eagles, you gotta bring a physical running attack. I think that's where they got exposed. I still think they're a great team, but I think that's their one weakness.
Yeah, I think for the Dolphins, obviously, I'm not going to say they're frauds. I think they still lead their division. They have not beat a team over 500 yet this year, but they're going to have plenty of chances to do so. They got the Chiefs in a couple weeks in Frankfurt, Germany, in the early game, so that'll be obviously an opportunity to do so. I like what they do offensively. The cool thing about Miami is they have so much balance, right? I seen a stat: 15 touchdowns passing, 15 touchdowns rushing. So he really balances it out. But the key you said, that front seven for Philly is just a different breed, right? They was able to shut down the elite running game of the Miami Dolphins, right? Whole Raheem Mostert only 50 yards rushing, pretty much shut it down. So that front seven special, man. We seen Nolan Smith get in there, get a sack. We seen Jordan Davis ball out. We seen Jalen Carter ball out. They got some players, and I think the key thing, Philly got even better, right? They got exposed a little bit, right? Tyreek Hill still had a good game, right? He still was, beating them in coverage, but the key was they got key stops early. It was able to turn over Tua. But the part they got exposed, Craig, was the safety position, right? Terrell Edmonds. What Philly just did, they just traded for Kevin Byard, all-pro safety, two-time Pro Bowler, elite safety for Tennessee. They add that to that defense now. They're going to be very, very special. Terrell Edmonds, as you've seen, led them in total tackles. He's with Tennessee now for a 5th and a 6th round pick. That is a big-time trade for them because it's going to make them better, right? They're not going to be as exposed on the back end when the corners, which are pretty good, get beat. They're going to be fine there. So I think for the Dolphins, they'll be fine. The good thing, too, they're getting their players back, right? You're going to have Xavier Howard coming back, and you got Jalen Ramsey coming back. So they'll have the full quota of players, and I think that'll be a good time to assess and see where they're at. And also, Jalen Phillips, a young guy, the defensive end, he's been impressive. Number one player in high school when he played. He's been having, not his season he had last year, but he got going in that game. If he can get going and be a key on that defensive line, you got like where they're at. But I don't think they're frauds. I think they'll be a good team. They're going to be a team to look out for in the AFC. But I think, like you said, Philly dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and they made it tough for them. And Philly's a contender.
Yeah, I think Philadelphia's defense is obviously incredibly talented, but when I look at the defensive front, the guys they have, that is just a physical team. And Miami didn't want anything to do with running the ball against them. And it's what all the quotes said after the game. We wanted to make them one-dimensional. We did. So I think Miami's going to favor much better against other defenses that don't have that sort of meanness up front, where they can try to run the ball more effectively. But yeah, in that game, just 47 yards as a team.
That's it.
45, and only attempted like 10 runs.
They usually don't do that.
Yeah.
They're usually very run heavy. That's what makes them so dangerous. Play action pass. You can hit Waddle over the seams, and you can go deep with Tyreek. And Tyreek's pretty much unguardable. So
yeah. So I think it's just specific to Philadelphia. I just think it's a tough matchup for them.
Yep, 100%. All right, last one when we wrap up the show. All right, our biggest takeaway. I'll start with you, Craig. What's just your biggest takeaway from the NFL weekend? What just stood out to you?
Well, the fact that the Eagles and Chiefs are currently at the top of their conferences, that's interesting. Chiefs are on a 6-game win streak. Both are 6-1. Teams are starting to fade a little bit, but I just think seeing that and that potential rematch is pretty exciting.
And the cool thing is they're going to play each other during the regular season, so we'll see it early on, and maybe potentially again in the Super Bowl. You never know. We'll see. My biggest takeaway is the Vikings. Vikings still have a chance in the NFC North. I know I have not been always sold on Kirk Cousins. Graham gives me a lot of angst for that. But he had a great game. I mean, you played a really good defense in San Fran. And you went. He had one of I think his best primetime performances. Right, 350 plus yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He lit them up without his best player and receiver in Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison has had that decision. He balled out, 7 catches, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. So Detroit was, getting a lot of praise that, rightfully so, coming into that game against Baltimore, but Baltimore just straight outclassed them, and they look like a complete team.
You called that.
So I just think that's going to be interesting to see now. Their schedule, if you look at the Lions' schedule, it's real favorable, right? So they should still be able to do their thing and be okay there. But I think Vikings 3-4, big win against San Fran. A lot of rumors were going around, Craig, that, hey, they should probably tank. They should get rid of Cousins. Jefferson might be out the door. You get a big win like that, the narrative kind of changes. So big win for them. They are only 2 games out of the division lead right now, and I think they still got to play the Lions. I don't think they've played them yet this season. So still all out there for the Vikings. We'll see how they finish. But, yeah, man, my last thing, too, as I tell everybody, the AFC North is not a joke. We won the division the last 2 years. Yeah, I'll let you get that point too, Craig. But all 3 teams besides us are over 500. 2 games over 500. Baltimore's 5-2, Steelers are 4-2, and Browns are 4-2. Whoever comes out of the division, props to you, because that is a tough division, man. It is no joke. Every year they have 2 teams that come out and make the playoffs. Division looks even better this year.
What are the Bengals at?
3-3. Yeah, and we play San Fran. So.
Yeah, that's impressive. The Browns, obviously a huge win. Ravens looked phenomenal. And then I thought we always talk about the Bills, but another tough loss for them.
Yeah, real quick, what did you just think about that game? I mean, obviously
I
on
had
the
a
road.
friend that was at the game. She's a huge Bills fan. They were cocky going into it.
Oh,
yeah, thought, I can't wait to see the Bills beat up on the Pats, because there's like some historical hatred of just all the years that the Pats would have the Bills number. But yeah,
I think
tough loss for them.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, they didn't get rolling until late in that game, and I think the biggest thing, people love to overlook division opponents. Remember, guys, these teams know you well. They see you twice a year, right? They know your tendencies. They know what you like to do. So for me, like my Bengals, like obviously see I'm wearing it today. I never overlook a division opponent. Like I'm still, regardless if Cleveland's good or not, regardless if Pittsburgh's good or not, regardless if Baltimore's good or not, I know they're going to give us a test every single time we play them. It's going to be physical, AFC North football, running the football, playing good defense. So never overlook your opponents, regardless if you're having a great season and they're having this kind of a season.
Unless you're the Chiefs.
There you go.
But that's just
perfect way to end it. I think it's perfect way to end it.
That's the only team, because I do overlook them. I'm just like, oh, the Chargers, we got this. Oh, the Broncos, we got this.
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, to have a team dominate their division like they have, it just doesn't happen. I said back in the Brady era or Peyton Manning era, that's what's going on with that. But yeah, every other division's. I mean, yeah, you can't overlook the games. Look what happened this last week with the Falcons. Another big win for them
against the Bucs. Yep.
So it's going to be exciting. But what other big matchups this week? You said Bengals Niners. That's huge.
That's a big one. Who's some other big ones? Hold on, guys. Let me look at the schedule real quick before we wrap. Craig brought up a good question.
Jags Steelers.
Yeah, that's an issue. We need the Jags to win that. That's a home game for the Steelers, but we'll see. Buccaneers Bills, I think, is a big game Thursday night, right? Bills, you're 4-3. You don't want to go 4-4. After this game, you got a big one Sunday night against us, the Bengals. Buccaneers, you want to stay on track, just a game behind the Falcons. So that's a big game, I think, as well. Rams Cowboys, I got that circled. Rams lost that big game. They want to kind of stay in the fold in the NFC. Cowboys coming off a bye. How will they look? They're trying to keep pace with the Eagles. I think that's a big-time game as well. Let me see.
Falcons, Titans, Arthur Smith against his former team.
Yep, that'll be interesting as well. And I think I got to go Patriots Dolphins. Only reason why I say that, can the Dolphins get back on track? Where we see that prolific offense get it going again, and then for the Patriots, right? Usually they've dominated division most years, not in recent memory, but we see how good they are. We see how tough they play the division opponents. Dolphins has always kind of had the upper hand on the Patriots in recent memory, but can the Patriots go and get another big time division win and get to 3-5 and kind of get back on track? That will put the Dolphins to 5-3. They'd be only really 2 games out, so I think that's a big time game as well.
Yep, Browns Seahawks too will be interesting.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I didn't even see that. Yeah, Browns Seahawks. As Craig mentioned real quick, 4-2, 4-2. We were able to beat the Seahawks. I think Seattle has a really good team, very physical, good defense. Browns as well. We see how good their defense is. Myles Garrett, a future Hall of Famer, is just having a phenomenal year. That'll be a good game as well.
Awesome. Yep, and then we'll be at Grayson Archer. I was trying to figure out who's going to be the starting quarterback. I don't have Archer's stats, but obviously they're coming off another big win over South Gwinnett. We know William Wallace can go in there. But we'll see. Yeah.
Are you making your, real quick before we close? Are you making your prediction on your show Friday, or are you gonna kind of go with it now?
I'll make it on Friday.
Respect that. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Peachtree Sports Network this Friday. We'll be promoting it all week, obviously. Grayson Archer, really good game pick, I think, right there. Should be interesting. Again, Archer, big time thing right here. You can get in there. If you win this game, you're playing for a region championship next week against Newark, and that's a home game with your home crowd, right? Grayson, you keep pace. You give them the one loss, and you pretty much, I think they got the region standings in their hands potentially too. But they would need Archer to beat Newton next week, I think, in order to win the region. So we'll see who comes out on top. Should be a good one.
Yeah, we got some big games this week. We'll talk about the Peachtree Ridge Norcross also. But.
Yes. So stay tuned for that. Craig will have a great show tomorrow. Come back here at noon. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate the comments. Jimmy Cash, Miss Mary Fox. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Peace.